Everyone's falling asleep. Okay.
Combined weight of 892 pounds.
On site government, we have Jan, Sam, and Lynn. On off, we have Logan, NC, and Yuki. Okay, we have the motion on the board. It is the motion that we were talking about just 5 minutes ago. We welcome the Prime Minister to read the motion in his name.
Yeah.
Everybody should take notes.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, members of this August House.
Is there?
I don't like holding it. Can you hold it? Hold it here. I'll do it. I'll start again. Right, ladies and gentlemen, members of this August House. Can you hear me?
No, where's the mic that works? This is the one. Like I hear it on.
What about the one?
No, get that.
Oh, okay.
Hello?
Yeah, much better.
Alright, no, let me reset my watch again.
Yeah, thank you.
Lynn needs a mic these days. Can you hold it?
How old am I apparently?
Usually it's front gate, they can hear you better.
I can actually.
Safe. Many days of lectures.
Alright. Now, the real reason we're having this motion is because I was enjoying the UFC heavyweight champion match last night, and Christy got upset with the blood all over the floor. And as she gave us this motion this morning, I kind of sat there and considered, of course they would make the only blood sport practitioner among the faculty be the Prime Minister. But as I am the Prime Minister, I considered that yes, this House would ban the broadcast of blood sports on public TV. So let's start with the definition of what blood sport is. We talk about blood sport being the professional violent contact sport. So specifically, these are not staged sports of boxing, Muay Thai, MMA, things that are contact and are generally not staged. But the point of the match is that number one, to win, you have to achieve a knockout. Number two, if you don't have a knockout, is you get your opponent to yield. You pound them down till they yield. And only if there are prolonged bouts, which you don't achieve a knockout or a yield, you then count by points, which generally doesn't happen. Now, why we think that this is different than martial arts and contact sports is specifically because it is all about damaging your opponents. It's not a case, obviously it involves skills, but generally it is really a case of how much damage you can take or how much damage you can inflict. And we think that this kind of violence shared on public TV is problematic. Now what we on the side of the government are going to tell you is that we are not going to ban it from people, practicing or watching, obviously. We think that as they would go out and say it's human nature for violence, it's something that has been passed down for generations, and these are the things that we agree upon and we concede to that. However, we do have a problem with it being broadcast on public TV. So what we want to do in terms of our policy is that we want to treat it the same way we treat rated materials, i.e. things like pornography. So we don't ban it on public TV. If you want to watch it on private channels, you have to get access to it through pay-per-view. There's generally ratings by the governments that would be attached to any kind of broadcast of the sports, and as well as the same kind of ratings that does apply beyond public TV, because we understand the omnipresence of new media where you have YouTube and all, and you can't police every inch of the internet because the internet is just endless. But we will have the same kind of policies that rated materials do have as well, like being able to be reported as rated materials and limiting the access to those who can watch it. So in the same manner that you would treat pornography, we would treat blood sports. Now, why is this? I will talk about why it is a government's responsibility to limit the broadcast. And I'll also talk about why it's actually a justified response by the government to do this, particularly in the nature of public TV. My second speaker will then come up and talk about the cost-benefit analysis, this idea of what kind of culture does a government need to create in today's society, and why public TV in itself is, or the kind of forum that a public TV is. Before I move on, I saw someone standing up.
This was me. How does blood sports compare to other forms of violence depicted on TV, like fictional violence? Do you think it has the same value as those things?
That's exactly what my first argument is. Thank you, Logan, for setting the stage.
Anytime.
We'll talk about why it is different and why a government has a responsibility to limit it. First of all, is because it's real. It is not just a reenactment, it is not staged, it is not something that is recreated to entertain. It is just a form of violence where you pound the other guy into the ground, and as Christy has experienced last night, you have blood splattering everywhere, a person who can barely stand anymore but defending his titleship match because he is a great fighter, holding on to his opponents and just trying to not get knocked out. Now, this kind of reality, we think, is so much more damaging than a movie which would have explosions, gore and blood, because the idea or the knowledge of it is that there is a specific awareness that this is real. There's a specific awareness that the other guy is getting hurt to the point that he can be severely damaged. And a lot of blood sport practitioners do end up severely damaged. Careers are very short, craniums get cracked, you get lacerated, you lose a lot, like a lot of people, a lot of Muay Thai practitioners as well, like my guru, has severe arthritis even at the age of 40. So the kind of damage that you glorify doesn't get shown in the sports. But at the same time, when people watch it, people understand or feel that this kind of violence is okay. And we think that that subliminal message or that initial knowledge that this is real versus something that you know is not real is very different. And in the same manner, that's why news don't show the kind of gory scenes that a movie has the privilege to show. That's why real pictures, or people get angry when you report and show strewn body parts of war or of accidents, just for the same results that kind of reaction that you get to something that is real is very different. Now, if they're going to tell us that it's a freedom of choice to view and all you have to do is change the channel, we think that that's not true. Freedom of choice is already limited in many cases, and just the same way as a makeshift sex scene in a movie is different than real sex in pornography, people already limit it in the government. Now that's why, on the second level, we think that this is a justified response by the government to ban it on public TV. Because of the very fact that we have this omnipresence of media nowadays, that there is very hard for us to control, that it becomes an everything goes society. Now, a government of any country, be it even a liberal democracy, has a necessity to maintain some kind of standard of what they find acceptable. And we think that a government is the best player to maintain and create this kind of ethical standards, and which we think it falls under. So overall, we on the side of the government is proud to open the case.